So, hi everyone, it's Erkan Ali here on the Beyond Mainstream channel. As you know, we haven't done much for a little while, and we're starting some new playlists within the channel, and one of them is Musings with Erkan Ali. So, I'd like to introduce my guest today, and it's Joel van der Molen.
You said it perfectly, actually. Yeah, most people don't.
Joel, I like Joel. I can get Joel quite easily, but then Van der Molen. So Joel, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Beyond Mainstream. Joel and I have known each other for some time, from quite a long time ago, but we haven't actually seen each other in a long time. And what's catalyzed us reconnecting is Joel has gone and done something that I think probably a lot of us would dream of doing, would think of doing, would fantasize about doing, but he's actually gone and done it. He's made a film, a comedy drama series, more accurately, to kind of start to articulate the tensions, I'd say, between, if you like, the what I would call the normies, no disrespect, but the mainstream kind of people who follow mainstream, are watching the news, are watching the BBC, and people that are maybe looking beyond the mainstream, hence beyond mainstream, right? That are doing their own research, that are kind of taking on, looking at the world in a different way to, say, the mass. So it's kind of breaking away from the pack. So welcome to the show, Joel. Do you want to introduce yourself anyway?
Thank you. That was an amazing introduction. Yeah, I couldn't have articulated it better myself. And that's really kind of what I was looking at doing. My name is Joel van der Molen, and I'm an actor and a producer. So I have a company, Vandercom Films. But yeah, during lockdown, I was inspired to create something that was a pure reflection of what I was really seeing around me and in my own life and in my own head and in my own world, and in others, and from communicating with others as well. And that led me to create, among other things that I was doing at the time, I came up with this idea, hit me like a bolt of lightning as I was running around the fields of Hertfordshire, because, you know, we were allowed out once a day. So I thought, okay, I may as well do some exercise then, you know, allowed out once a day. What's that like? Oh God, sounds familiar. So yeah, I came up with this idea about this character that was obsessed with the conspiracy theories surrounding the virus, as well as other conspiracies that are going on, or, you know, and that he's been studying this for years. And then he has this wife who thinks he's crazy, is buying spacesuits, cleaning the house in PPE equipment, and thinks the cat's got coronavirus. And this all just hit me. And I was like, right, I've got to get writing straight away. So I wrote 6 episodes, got it down to a pilot, got the crew and everyone together, and the actress Layla, who you see playing the wife, and thought, right, let's do this. Let's do this. I really wanted to do it because it's something that, you know, when I get that kind of an inspiration, I feel, right, let's act and let's do it. And, you know, let's do something with it. And so, yeah, I had a wonderful time filming it in July, and got it to the stage where it is at the moment, which has just literally come out now.
So it came out.
It's called What the Fact.
What the Fact, right? And it came out premiered on Sunday night on YouTube. But I want to break it down because you've kind of given us the story, but it's not the whole. It's not the whole thing, is it? So we all have. I mean, I imagine anybody listening to this Beyond Mainstream channel are people who are doing independent research, and we have these epiphanies, we have these insights, we go down rabbit holes, and I think the whole conspiracy genre is an interesting one because it's been tainted with many it's a loaded term now, conspiracy and conspiracy theorists, because it kind of lends it to this kind of tin hat, 4 hat wearing nutter. And when you break away from the mainstream, you start to see there's different explanations for how the world works, whether that be around the money system, around medicine, around the education system, our relationship to media and news and film. I could go on ad infinitum. And you start to kind of, in my own experience, I was kind of comparing what I'd always thought was the way it was with new information, and you start to see there's a disparity between the two, and it becomes quite depending on your personality. For me, I'd say it's quite addictive. I'm quite an obsessive kind of person. It wouldn't matter what it was. Once I get into something, I'm off and running. But you've kind of gone down the road of research and working things out on an independent level. But then you've got into the mode of actually turning it into something that makes a difference. We met today, everyone, and we've had a lovely day this morning. We spent a few hours together, and I said, why do you still care? Why bother? Why go? Why we've done our research, we've done some investigation. What is it then that makes you say, not only am I going to write 1, 2, 3, 4, how many episodes, but then to produce it, and the cost of that, there's financial cost, there's opportunity cost, there's time and effort, there's creative angst, I'm sure, pulling everyone together. What made you go to that extent? Why don't you just kind of do what the rest of us do, complain, watch a bit of Netflix, have a glass of wine and shut up?
Yeah, I could have done. I could have done that, but there's something inside that is maybe speaking to us on many different levels all the time. It's the inner voice that's always calling us and always saying to us, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And we know it. And we all kind of hear it. But then, as we go through this journey we kind of call life, we're sort of programmed and conditioned to be controlled by what other people think. And so we live other people's values and expectations, whether they be our parents, our friends, society, culture, religion, and we get distracted. So we end up doing what will please others or what will please society. And I certainly know that of myself. And we only do things because we know them from ourselves. And when we see other people doing them, then okay, we can reflect. It was really a case of saying, okay, what am I wanting to achieve here, and how can I turn this into an opportunity? An opportunity, of course, for me, because we always do things for ourselves. Of course we do. Then we do it for the people closest to us, and then we do it for a wider audience, maybe. So that was where the idea maybe was driven from that egoic maybe perspective to actually. But I really wanted to get it down. I was just thinking, if I'm thinking these thoughts, these feelings, these beliefs, these ideas, what's happening, these questions coming to me, then I guarantee you maybe that then there's billions of people out there thinking the same way.
Well, when I heard Edward, the character in the, I'm like, I've heard myself say those things, ask those questions, pose the questions, or bring up those subject matters to people, whether it's whatever subject it is. I don't want to get into grandeur of the subject, but it was like this desire to share what I've learned and why it's important. And we were talking earlier on today, and I said to you, I think it comes down to there's a crime. There are multitudes of crime going. This is about justice. I think you said to me, I think you want to inspire people and wake them up. I said, I don't really care about that. I really don't care. It doesn't matter that much to me that I want to inspire and wake people up. I used to think it was that. But what it is I'm seeing, in my mind, crimes against humanity that are suppressing us, whether it's around medicine or education system or the money system. And I just think like there's a crime going on, and I just want to make sure people are aware of it. And maybe if there's enough people kind of start to see what's going on, we can eradicate these crimes.
And maybe, and one of those things that are helping people to question themselves, I think, is to do it through comedy, because I love comedy. If we look at the late, great people like, whether it's Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, there's comedians like Bill Hicks, or what was the other one you mentioned? George Carlin. I think so you look at their work, they're fantastic comedians, but underlining that, they're delivering a message, and they're feeding their philosophy all the time. Atlas Shrugged did it in books, and throughout the years, we this is happening, and it's progressing. And I think now we have the most awakened people to what's happening behind the scenes than ever in history. But we also have the other side of that, which is what we're seeing playing out, which is which are people who are very closed off and living in a world where what they see is what they believe, perhaps. And I was there, but I always kind of could hear myself thinking, but is this real? But is this not? What's really happening? There was always these questions that I was asking, but I didn't know how to communicate them. And as you said, when you speak to people, when you're out and about, you cannot tell people. You can't. People don't like to be told anything. But when they watch something, they can see themselves in it, or they can see the questions that they're asking themselves. They can see what their family are saying. They can see what they're hearing on social media and what their friends are saying around them, and go, okay, yes. And then they, it opens up for themselves to ask what I consider important questions. And I think that's really, my motivation.
Yeah,
for coming to that point.
Edward in series 1. I was just thinking about this, like there's asking questions, and then Edward in it has actually put his career, his income, his livelihood at risk, because he's been told with no uncertain terms to stop doing that, otherwise you're going to lose your job. And there's a price to pay for this commitment to, I don't like the word enlighten, but just to get people to look at things, what they choose to believe, what perception they choose to empower is a bit further down. But at least look at this stuff. It explains it. I know in my journey, I think my journey was a lot earlier than most people that I know. But it was around 03 that I was doing a lot of I was doing different research pre to 03. But 03 onwards, I started to ask questions like, well, why is there famine? Why are there wars? Why is there debt? Why? And I did, and going back to the idea of being slightly obsessive, compulsive, ADHD. I don't know. People say, oh, you're ADHD, you're obsessive compulsive, you're on the Asperger's, you're bipolar, you're just insane, whatever. I just had the wherewithal to keep looking until I found answers that made sense. The answers that, when you say, well, where does money come from? How does it come into existence? Who controls that mechanism? Why are we all running around? Why are there so many countries and organizations and businesses and families and in debt? And I don't mean to the extent of just understanding monetary. I'm talking about, getting underneath it and really understanding money creation. And I got to a point where I realized how that worked. And then I started looking at wars, how the wars come about. Why because it takes a lot of effort. Warfare is expensive, it's technical, it's a lot of work up front. There's a lot to mitigate in the actual event of it. I think they spend so little time in war compared to how much time they spend preparing and the resources and the time. It's like there's a tank, I think it's called a Leclerc tank. It's a French. It's one of the most expensive tanks. I don't know about now. This is about 5-6 years ago. It's about $17 million for one tank. So the amount of money, resources, technical, not just the people at war and the soldiers, but the people behind it and the support. There's a lot of work that goes into it. It's a lot of. It's like saying it's hard to stop smoking. Actually, no, it's hard to smoke. You need fire. You need the cigarettes. Nowadays, you have to be outside. It's more effort to smoke than actually not smoke. It's a lot less effort not to have wars than all the work and effort we put into it. Then kind of fast forward that. Well, who gains? What do they gain? What are the wins of it? What are the winners and losers? All that sort of stuff. But the point I'm making is Edward is starting in the character, starting to ask questions, and he started to question it, and he started to not just question, he started to put information out, and he's being asked not to do that anymore. He's been pretty much threatened. If you carry on, you're going to lose your job, which then puts tensions on him personally, financially, as an individual. But it goes into the family and his relationship with his wife. So these perceptions where they clash, especially within families or in friendships, are starting to separate and divide our communities, our family communities, our friendship communities, our work communities. So the impact that you're alluding to here to the extent that the wife's character name is Claudia, isn't it, in the film?
Mm-hmm.
She throws her husband out of the house because he's got views of the world that don't fit her views of the world.
That's very interesting what you touched on about the divide within the household, and how this could actually be, something else that is a part of that mechanism of divide. We're seeing a lot of dividing going on. People are afraid they're not even talking to one another anymore, mainly because they have this thing around their mouth and nose. There is that happening where people are not communicating with one another, but at the same time, maybe they are even more so, because there's more and more information about this, and people want to be hearing about it. There's a lot of communication going on within households, and that can divide and that can bring together people on either side. The character Claudia really is, taken by everything that's going on and responding to that in the way that she knows how, through living her life from, growing up, being born, living in the world that she lives in, watching television, watching the news, watching movies, and therefore responding in such a way to anything that she's being told. It creates a reaction, which is cleaning the house from top to bottom and cleaning every cupboard and cleaning every product when she brings it home from shopping, going shopping in a spacesuit, not letting her husband in the house in case.
There's that scene where Edward comes home and she makes him take off all his clothes so they go upstairs to the bathroom and wash. That has literally happened to me. I've had to do that, and I've had my wife, wiping down shopping to put it away. And I know people have done it, even people that are researchers, because it's like there was a stage at the early days where we didn't really know how it would transmit or how dangerous it could be. So the precautions.
Everybody thinks, everybody's thinking, and nobody really is aware. I mean, I guess I know nothing. I mean, I don't know what to really think, but I know inside what I'm going through. I know inside what I'm feeling, and I think every single human being is getting a reaction to this, and they can feel it. If you turn on the news, what does it do to you? What does it say to you? What is it your body reacting to hearing stories on the news? Is it a good feeling? Or is it something that is saying that something's not right? And, there's many people out there on YouTube, on Library, on BitChute, and they're all providing a lot of information. And then there's the mainstream message, which is very consistent on their version of it. There's no deviation from that. There's no allowance for comment on that, from what I've seen. I don't know. Maybe I haven't watched enough of the mainstream media for a while. I think I turned it off in about 2014. But so, what's happening within people in real life, and that's what I'm really looking at when I approached What the Fact, to make it as real as what's really truly happening within people's households, because I don't think they're seeing that on either side.
No, and I want to point out something as well. So there's this juxta between someone who's very much in the mainstream, who's following the mainstream, like, I'm going to put a mask on, I'm going to have the vaccine, and hold on a minute, this is like human condition, it's a pandemic and all that kind of, these two characters who happen to be married that are clashing. And what I wanted to ask you about is, especially with all the censorship and shadow banning and channels getting taken off, and because you could go one way and completely blow it where you can't actually get any mass engagement. But I think where you pitched it, and I said this to you yesterday, or was it earlier today? I can't remember. But you made both sides look ridiculous. Both of it does look ridiculous. It's not like, I don't think there's a balance in the presentation that says this is ridiculous, but this is also ridiculous. But where do you, the viewer, where does your perception lie? You know, because even some of the things that Edward says, I would agree with, but they still sound insane.
And maybe it's, but I went out there with the thing, okay, each side look at the other. Because there are people who are just fixated on the mainstream message and won't deviate from that. So anybody who is bringing any alternative message to that, they're brainwashed, they're crazy. However, then you have the extreme people who are really believing the whole thing is just a hoax, and this is the Edward character, believing that the whole thing is just, you know, a reason to enslave, as he says in episode 1. What if it's just a reason to create human farms? But if both sides look at one another, then we create a sort of balance, perhaps, and can help one another to maybe then drive forward. I'm not saying any side is right or wrong, or maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, and that comes through within it. But I'm certainly trying to look at what's going on in both perceptions of people.
Yeah. I think
it's only perceptions.
I think it's hard for you to say because you're playing the part of Edward. You've written the part. You're producing it. You're directing it. Blah blah blah. You're so involved in Edward. And you've got to represent this mainstream narrative as well. And it's all done in a dramatic kind of entertaining way. It's not documentary. It is entertainment. It is supposed to be a what would you call it?
Well, it's kind of like a comedy drama at the moment, but in terms of genre, where is it placed? I guess I'll let the people decide. But it's not, you know, where is it placed and does it have a place? I don't know. But then maybe it's a new kind of genre that's coming through. Potentially, I don't know,
sketch show feel about it. It's got
the realism feel about it, but then that's what I was going for.
Yeah,
was that kind of like, well, this is really happening within households across the United Kingdom.
Yeah, it's a bit like if you're watching Friends or something like that. You know that's not real. You know that's entertainment, and you know it's theatrical, and it's but the conversations and the dialogue between the characters in what the fact. They could be real conversations without the drama and without the
absolutely.
Yeah, I think what you've done there, you stripped away something that gives it that level of realism.
It's a realism that conversations that people are having every day on every street, on every person you pass, whether they are going for breakfast or having a conversation with their spouse, with their children. These kind of questions are coming up in every household across the world, perhaps. And, you know, and each individual is taking their information from somewhere. So we have the kind of illusion of thought. We have the illusion of, because that's what we're listening to. So we're listening to information, whether it be The Guardian, we're still getting the same information, and creating our own opinions based on the information we're collecting. And we may sound intelligent if we quote something from a Guardian newspaper or a Telegraph newspaper or the BBC or whatever we are listening to. But then there's the other side that are not listening to that, and they're listening, and that makes sense to them. What makes sense to you? So all I'm doing is holding up a mirror, perhaps, and saying, okay, what are we talking about here? We've got this type of extreme character, because what I'm doing is I'm taking the questions that people have and I'm taking it to the extreme, taking the questions that I have and taking it to the extreme. And then in the character of Claudia, taking the other side to the extreme. And people, maybe why the success of the show is that people are seeing themselves and seeing their friends and seeing their family in both of the characters, perhaps. And then you've got the other characters like my conspiracy guy, who, you know, is doing the workings behind the scenes, and we don't know how. I'm looking forward to the episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you've got the friend of his who he meets in the car park, who's like very dismissive of his, and you know, you say to him, the line, well, what if they're just creating human farms? And he goes, like Emmerdale.
Yeah, but,
Which is understandable for a British audience.
You can really imagine those conversations taking place. They don't feel overly scripted, because you can hear people talk that way. And I think the situation around us has become so surreal, so unprecedented. The vaccine, literally a couple of days now. Was it yesterday? The first people have had vaccines here in England, older, more vulnerable people, and people saying how amazing it is that they managed to get a vaccine in, unheard of, telescopic. But I think Boris said we've telescoped the process down. Instead of taking 4 to 10 years, they've done it in less than 10 months.
And so to Edward's character, the vaccine's been around for 20 years because it's a virus that's been created. And the vaccine was created at the same time as the solution. And Edward's character is talking about this in episode 1, that it's created 20 years ago, and that it's all programmed, and it's by, there's an agenda behind it. Who benefits from it? Who benefits from social distancing? Who benefits from not being able to see loved ones? Who benefits from cutting down that conversation? So he's asking all of these questions, but in a very dramatic way. And he's getting challenged by that as well. But really, it's asking those deep level questions that people want to ask, perhaps.
I just want to change the subject slightly. So going from having this bolt of lightning idea to starting to write, and then starting the mechanisms of producing, video and producing something that people can view. What would you say to anyone? Because one of the things I want Beyond Mainstream to be is an inspiration for people. I'd like people to look at it and go, well, if Joel can do it, I can do it. If Erkan can do it, I can do it. What would you say have been key points in getting it to a finished, viewable piece of work, piece of art, piece of documentary, whatever,
Yeah, but that comes from inside of every single person. So it's very different for every single one of us. And as I said, I was out running one day when they said that, you can only go out once a day for exercise. And then I got this idea and I ran with that. So it's learning to listen to what's inside of us and what is trying to come through. And every situation that we get in, and every person that we speak, is only going to be a mirror reflection of asking us what is trying to come through. And that's what it was. It was just like something trying to come through. And there's many, many levels for myself, which may not be similar to anyone else. I love acting. I love performing. I'm seeing what's going on around me, and I sort of want to react. So how do I do that? I'm not going to run around Hertfordshire, where I currently happen to be, or London, and start screaming at everybody, what's going on? But I can do that through art. So I really got down to it and started to do that. And when somebody has that kind of follows that inner guidance, well, then they know.
So I think there's I just want to maybe add some comment to that. So I think where we're all having intuitive ideas and thoughts coming at us. We're viewing the world in the way that we view it, and that evolves and changes. And then there's where our strengths or our interests or our passions or talents lie, is expressing it within those. Because someone else could have printed leaflets and gone out and done leaflets and set up a talk. Other people could have gone, right, we're going to do a march. Other people could done a podcast. The actual expression itself is a function of your abilities and talents and desire. But the going back to context is there's an inner. I think you've talked about it in terms of intuition. It's like you've had these intuitions. You're looking at the world and thinking, hold on, some things don't make sense. I've got questions, and I want to share those concerns and see how that might make a difference and how it might impact other people's views, and ultimately that they might actually do something.
But what is it that stops people?
Yeah.
What is it that stops people? And the thing is that stops people, in my opinion, is fear. And because it's like the Edward character. So he loses his job. Oh, spoiler alert. But by going ahead and doing what you want to do, yes, there is that risk that you will lose your job, that you may alienate people, that you may lose friends, whatever or friends are people who want to be liked or want to be liked by, or whatever they are. So, there is that fear. And I wake up with a fear every day, and I wake up at 4 a.m. and I think, oh my God, but what if people don't like me? There's always going to be that. But then you just do it anyway. And I guess that's what the Edward character is doing, and maybe that's a reflection of myself. Of course it is, because that's where we write from. So, yes, there is going to be that fear, but what's stronger? Because on the other side of fear, what's on the other side of fear? The other side of fear is trust, is trusting that you're protected if you're doing what you love and if you're doing what you truly believe in. Because you can say, okay, I'm going to leave my job and I'm just going to trust that the universe looks after me. Well, it doesn't actually work like that, in my opinion. But if you know, and you can feel it inside of you, if you're loving what you're doing, well, then you're probably on the right track. And if you can keep doing that, then, why wouldn't, if you're talking about the universal laws of balance, why wouldn't that work out for you? If you're suppressing what you believe in, then I think that may hurt you in a certain way. And I know it has, where I have not acknowledged the truth within inside of me, where I have not acknowledged that nagging feeling, then my body has responded by, by either addictions or illness that, is saying get back on track.
So, okay, if people want to view the first episode, that's going to be, where can they find that?
That's now on YouTube. So search What the Fact, or What the Fact Vandercom seems to, that's where we can see the first episode. And this is all work in progress. So what I'm doing is inviting the audience to see what's going on and then developing that. So we'll be filming all through 2021, which we're close approaching, on just commenting on what is really people are thinking inside of them. And of course on Facebook we are as well, Red Pill Zone Beyond Straight Mainstream. Yeah, we're going to I'll put the links to the episode and the trailer below this episode. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I think we've kind of covered a bit, and we've had an introduction to it. Is there anything that you feel like you'd be regretting if we didn't talk about before we head off? I invite people's feedback. I think that's important. I would love that, good or bad. I welcome both. If people think that it's crazy, if people don't, then that's great. But let's hear that. Yeah. And the same the other side. If people are championing this, then wonderful as well. I mean, yes, I'm on all of the kind of social media things, and they're welcome to connect. Great. Listen, Joe, I want to thank you for being in conversation with me today. We did want to keep this one short and sweet. We didn't want to over drag it out. I think you and I could have very long dragged out conversations, by the way. So, like Joel said, I'll put the links to What the Fact below here. We'll be sharing it on Beyond Mainstream. Just to let you know, Beyond Mainstream members on Facebook, we've got a catch-up Zoom call on Monday the 14th. We haven't done one in ages, between 7:30 and 9 p.m. And then on the 21st of December, we're doing a drinks and giggles. So get yourself a drink, get some nuts, some snacks, or whatever you like. And we're going to have a little kind of online kind of get together and maybe blow off a little bit of steam before the end of the year as we're coming to the end of 2020. What a year it's been. Maybe you've got some stories to tell. Please comment, like, subscribe. Tell us what you think, what you make of the show. How can we improve it? Or what we're doing that you like. I've had a lot of people say to me they what they like, and let's have some more of that. We have been off air for quite a while. We will be doing more interviews as well, and Shula will be doing her Wielding the Sword playlist. I'm doing my musings playlist with new guests. If you think there's somebody that we should interview or would be great for us to speak to them, please let us know and we'll set that up. Joel, any last words before we head off? No, just thank you, everybody. And, we all make decisions out of fear and love. Let's choose love. I think, this is the most important time to be alive. And, even though it's the most challenging time, it's also the most exciting time.
Sure is, man. Definitely feels real. Anyway, so listen, thanks for tuning in. Great having you here. Catch you next time. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.